The ballroom looked like something torn from a fairy tale. Golden ribbons draped from the ceiling, crystal chandeliers shimmered like frozen stars, and a massive Christmas tree stood at the center, wrapped in white lights and silver ornaments. Laughter echoed from every corner as servers moved gracefully through the crowd, offering champagne and warm smiles. Clara stood near the edge of it all, invisible. Her navy blue dress was elegant but modest, chosen carefully so she wouldn't stand out. No diamonds, no designer labels, nothing that hinted at the truth. To everyone else, she was just another junior analyst, quiet, polite, forgettable. No one noticed the way her fingers clenched the folder in her hands, or how her eyes glistened as she struggled to breathe normally. Inside the folder were the divorce papers. Her name was already printed there, beside Victor Hale's. All that remained was her signature. Christmas music played softly in the background, a cheerful lie that made her chest ache. Just a few feet away, executives toasted another profitable year, praising Victor for his brilliance and vision. Every compliment felt like a blade. None of them knew she had once shared his bed, his dreams, his late-night confessions. None of them knew she was about to erase herself from his life forever. Clara's thoughts drifted back to the beginning. The quiet wedding in a small chapel overseas, no press, no headlines, just love. She had believed that was enough. She had believed Victor when he promised to protect her. But promises, she had learned, were fragile things. A laugh nearby snapped her back to the present. She wiped a tear quickly, afraid someone might notice. She couldn't afford questions. Not tonight. Her gaze lifted, against her will, and found Victor across the room. He stood beneath the chandelier, confident and commanding, surrounded by people who admired him. He looked every bit the untouchable billionaire. For a moment, her heart betrayed her, aching for the man who once held her hand and whispered that she was his home. But that man was gone. Clara turned away before her resolve could crumble. She slipped toward the balcony doors, the folder pressed to her chest like armor. The cold night air rushed in as she stepped outside, and under the glow of Christmas lights, with tears streaming freely at last, she opened the folder and picked up the pen. Her hand shook. With a single, painful stroke, she signed her name, ending a love no one in that glittering room had ever known existed. The balcony door slid open with a soft click, letting warmth and music spill into the cold night. Clara felt it before she heard him. The shift in the air, the familiar presence she had tried so hard to escape. Clara. His voice was lower than she remembered, edged with something dangerously close to regret. She didn't turn right away. Her fingers tightened around the pen, knuckles white, as snowflakes landed on the railing and melted into silver drops. The city stretched below them, glowing and indifferent. This was how it always had been, beautiful from a distance, ruthless up close. Slowly, she faced him. Victor Hale stood a few steps away, no longer the flawless host of the party, but a man stripped of his certainty. His tie was slightly loosened, his eyes dark with questions he was afraid to ask. In his hand was the folder she had left on the balcony table. "I saw the papers," he said quietly. "Are you really ending this tonight?" Clara laughed, the sound breaking in her throat. Tonight was just convenient. The ending happened a long time ago. He stepped closer. "You never said you were unhappy." "I tried," she replied, finally meeting his gaze. "But you were always in meetings. Always listening to everyone except me." Victor exhaled slowly. "If someone hurt you, tell me who." Her smile was sharp and sad. "Your board, your advisors, your family friends who smiled at my face and called me a mistake behind closed doors." His expression hardened. "They had no right. But you let them," she interrupted, her voice steady despite the tears. "You let them question my worth, my intentions, my place beside you. And you said nothing." Snow fell heavier now, settling in her hair. Victor reached out, then stopped, his hand hovering in the space between them. "You could have told me the truth," he said. "About who you are, about your money." Clara shook her head. "I wanted you to choose me without it. I wanted to be loved as Clara, not as a balance sheet." Silence stretched between them, thick and unforgiving. She picked up the signed papers and pressed them into his chest. "This is me choosing myself." Victor's fingers trembled as he took them. "I still love you." Her eyes softened, but only for a second. "Love that comes too late feels a lot like cruelty." She turned away before he could see her break again, walking back toward the warm lights of the party, leaving Victor alone on the balcony, holding signed papers, falling snow, and the crushing realization that he had just lost the only woman who never wanted anything from him except his courage. The morning after the Christmas party arrived cold and unforgiving, as if the city itself sensed the shift that had taken place overnight. Clara sat in the back seat of a black sedan, her posture calm, her face composed, while the driver navigated through the financial district. The tear-stained woman from the balcony was gone. In her place sat someone sharper, older somehow, and resolute. Her phone vibrated non-stop. Messages from board members, legal teams, international partners, names that once moved markets with a single call. Clara ignored most of them. She already knew what the world was about to learn. At precisely 9 a.m., every major financial outlet published the same headline. Blackwood Dynasty reclaims control. Clara Blackwood returns as chairwoman and majority shareholder. Screens lit up across trading floors and executive offices. Stocks surged. Analysts scrambled. Reporters repeated her name like a revelation. For years, the Blackwood heir had been a mystery, rumored, unseen, almost mythical. And now, she was standing in plain sight. Victor Hale saw the headline while standing in his office, coffee forgotten in his hand. The photo stopped his breath. Clara stood behind a marble podium, dressed in ivory, her expression serene and unyielding. There was no trace of last night's tears. Only authority. "No," he whispered. The live broadcast began. Clara's voice filled the room, steady, confident, unmistakably hers. "I stepped away from public life to understand loyalty without influence," she said. "Now, I return with clarity." Across Victor's company, panic spread. Executives who had once dismissed Clara as insignificant now recognized her surname with dawning horror. The same board members who had sneered at her background realized they had insulted a woman whose net worth dwarfed their own. One message flashed across Victor's screen from his legal team. Blackwood Capital has acquired a controlling interest in Northstar Technologies. His biggest competitor. His chest tightened. This wasn't revenge. It was inevitability. At the press conference, a reporter asked, "Ms. Blackwood, why reveal yourself now?" Clara paused, her eyes briefly softening before hardening again. "Because hiding taught me who respected me without fear. Power simply confirms what truth already showed me." Victor sank into his chair as the broadcast ended. The silence in his office was deafening. He finally understood. Clara hadn't left him because she was weak or wounded. She had left because she was powerful enough to walk away. And the world had just been reminded of exactly who she was. The ballroom looked the same, yet everything felt different. The chandeliers still shimmered, the marble floors still gleamed, but the atmosphere carried a quiet tension that hadn't been there before. Employees whispered as black luxury cars arrived outside. This time, the Christmas decorations felt small. Decorations inside a building that now belonged to someone far more formidable than holiday cheer. Clara Blackwood entered without announcement. She wore a tailored black coat, her movements unhurried, her presence commanding. Conversations faltered mid-sentence as people recognized her, not as the silent woman from weeks ago, but as the billionaire whose name now ruled headlines and stock markets. The staff straightened instinctively, respect replacing familiarity. Victor stood near the center of the room, summoned by a brief message that offered no explanation. When he turned and saw her, the noise around him faded. For a moment, he saw the woman he had loved. Then he saw the truth. This was a woman who no longer needed him. "You own this place now," he said quietly, breaking the silence between them. Clara's lips curved into a faint smile. "Ownership is temporary. Clarity is not." They walked a few steps apart from the crowd. The same balcony doors stood nearby, closed now, as if sealing away the night that had ended them. "I was wrong," Victor admitted. "About everything." She studied him. Not with anger, but with distance. "Realizing that is important," she said. "But it doesn't change what happened." He hesitated, then asked the question he had been carrying like a wound. "If I had stood up for you, if I had listened, would things be different?" Clara looked past him, at the chandelier lights reflected in the glass. "Love needs safety," she answered softly. "And I didn't feel safe being small beside you." Victor swallowed hard. "Is there any chance, any future?" She shook her head gently. Some doors close so we don't lose ourselves trying to keep them open. From her coat pocket, she removed a slim business card and placed it in his hand. Not a plea, not a promise. Just a symbol of closure. This is my office line. For professional matters only. She extended her hand. After a moment, he took it. The handshake was brief, final, and honest. As Clara turned and walked away, the room seemed to part for her, respect following in her wake. Victor remained where he was, holding the card, understanding at last that she hadn't destroyed him. She had simply outgrown the version of him that couldn't protect her. And as Clara Blackwood stepped into the waiting car, the city lights reflected in her eyes, not with tears this time, but with purpose, power, and a future that belonged entirely to her.